Well, good morning. Thanks for giving me about 7 minutes this morning as we look at the Apostle Philip. If you want to turn in your copy of God's Word, we're going to be in John chapter 1 this morning, verses 45 and 46. John chapter 1, verses 45 and 46. As you turn there, what are the 5 things we want to remember about our study of the disciples? A disciple was a valuable companion to Jesus. They learned from Jesus, and once Jesus left earth to go back into heaven, we call that the ascension. Those 12 apostles or disciples, they took Jesus's teachings to the world. Most of the disciples, they were either fishermen, some of them were tax collectors, at least one of them was, and then some were revolutionaries. We also know them as zealots. Each disciple, when they wanted to follow Christ, they needed to consider what it would cost them to follow Christ, what it would cost them relationally to follow Christ, and then what it would cost them in their career to follow Christ, as far as what they would earn or what they would lose to follow Christ. These men, when they were going to follow Jesus, they needed to be willing to serve others and not to have others serve them, because the life of a disciple was about service. And finally, don't forget, we call them disciples and apostles. We use that interchangeably sometimes. They're called disciples before the ascension of Christ. And then in Acts chapter 1, we learned that we call them apostles because these are the men that were with Jesus from his baptism to the ascension. And then after Jesus ascended or went up back to heaven after his death, burial, and resurrection, they're called apostles. And that's found in Acts chapter 1. This morning, I want to give you a confession, a live confession about something that I don't really like to talk about. A moment of vulnerability is I would like to think that I know something about cars. In the past, I have learned to change the belts, different belts on cars. I've changed oil filters. I've changed air filters. A couple times I've changed a brake line. I've done some brake jobs on the cars. So I have some knowledge. Now, don't bring your car to the parsonage and expect for me to be able to fix it, because I am nowhere near a mechanic. I don't see myself leaving the ministry to become a mechanic, but I have a little bit of knowledge. And in my line of thinking, a little bit of knowledge can add to a whole lot of danger. But you see, the thing I want to talk about is I have a little bit of knowledge. The problem is that I don't always apply that knowledge. Why don't I apply the knowledge? Well, first of all, I don't have confidence in my ability to change the oil or to do brakes, because the last thing I want to do is go cruising through town, pump the brakes, and I didn't do something right and I crash. The second reason is I don't have confidence in my ability to have all the knowledge that I have. Now, someone's going to type in or have some kind of comment. The best way to learn is to do it. But the third reason that I don't do and work on cars is because I don't like to do it. And see, the thing that we want to learn about Philip this morning is Philip has a lot of knowledge. But contrary to what I've just talked to you, Philip takes that knowledge and he applies it. It's one thing to have a lot of knowledge about something, but to take it to the next level, you need to be able to apply what you know. Hopefully by now you're in John chapter 1, verses 45 and 46. This is where we're introduced to Philip. Philip, he knew the scriptures well, and then he just didn't have the head knowledge. He went and he applied what he knew. I missed this the first time I read it, and then once I studied it, this truth really came out. If you look at John chapter 1, it says that Philip came and gave testimony when he went to tell the others about Jesus. He said, "We have found the person Moses was speaking about." You see, Philip, he spent time studying the scriptures. He had a lot of knowledge about what to look for the promised and the coming Messiah. But then he took that to the next level and he applied that knowledge, and he looked at the life of Christ and he said, this is what we're supposed to be looking for. I'm going to take this knowledge, I'm going to apply it, and then I'm going to be able to recognize the Messiah is Jesus Christ. And that's going to be the key theme throughout the rest of our few minutes together. Who else? What else do we know about Philip? Well, Philip was born in Bethsaida. Bethsaida is the hometown of Andrew and Peter. Andrew and Peter were brothers. We looked at Peter the first day we started this study, and we looked at Andrew yesterday. So don't miss the fact that a lot of these guys, they knew each other. They had relationship outside of being the 12 disciples of Jesus. Some of them worked together. Some of them were business partners, and some of them, they lived in the same area, so they would have been familiar with each other. What does church tradition teach us about the life of the Apostle Philip? Well, we believe that he preached in modern day Ukraine. And we also believe that Philip was crucified in modern day Turkey on a cross. And this was a very tall cross. Now, what was Philip's personality? Philip was a very practical person. In John chapter 6, he was part of the miracle of the feeding of the 5,000. And he looked out at all these people and he said, hey guys, even if we worked for months, we still couldn't raise enough money to buy the food that we need to feed all these people. That tells you he's a very practical person. You see, Philip was very helpful as well. In John chapter 12, he wanted to help people meet Jesus. And people wanted to come and meet Jesus, and Philip was able to arrange the meeting so that these folks that were seeking Jesus, if you will, had an audience with Jesus and could meet him. But Philip also got confused. In John chapter 14, he got confused because he took things literally. In John chapter 14, Jesus says, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. And Philip says, help me see the Father. And Philip was looking literally, so sometimes he got confused. And that brings me comfort, because sometimes I look at God's word and I say, boy, I'm so confused. If anything, I got a little bit of comfort and affirmation, if you will, that even the people that sat under Jesus's teachings were sometimes going, hey, I don't quite understand this. Help me understand it. What are some key lessons that we can learn? I really pull one lesson from Philip this morning, is that we can have all the knowledge in the world, but we cannot gain access to that knowledge until we have the proper understanding of it and then properly apply it. All the knowledge in the world cannot gain you access to the life that you want until you come to understand and apply the truth of Jesus's teachings in your life. Now, I could possibly be a mechanic, but I'd have to gain more knowledge, but I'd have to apply the knowledge that I currently have. And the same might be true to you. Philip was a disciple who learned from Jesus, but then he took it to the next level and he applied that knowledge that he learned. How about you? Are you growing in your knowledge of the Bible? Are you growing in your knowledge of Jesus? It's one thing to have the knowledge, but from the life of Philip the apostle, I've been challenged this morning to take what I know in my head and apply it to my life so that I can continue to make the changes as I grow in God's word. If I can help you in any way, I trust that you'll reach out. I hope you have a great Tuesday. Thanks for giving me about 7 minutes to look at the life of the Apostle Philip. Have a great Tuesday.